And I wish to go on hurting you, hurting you, hurting you.
In addition to the photos, there are various other oddities concerning the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. In addition to the high-resolution camera used to take these pictures, LRO also carries an instrument known as Lunar Orbiter Laser Altimeter, or LOLA. Basically, it fires a laser repeatedly which bounces off the lunar surface and back at LRO, thus allowing the satellite to make a 3D topographic map by measuring the time it takes for the laser pulses to return. Hold on a second. I thought you needed a retro-reflector to do that.
You didn't really think that. You're just trying to make your viewers believe that your opponents have claimed that. Now let me see, which of the logical fallacies is it this time? Ah, yes, the straw man. An argument based on misrepresentation of an opponent's position. That's so you can look so much smarter by debunking it.
With the laser pointed at a random location on the moon's surface,
initiating laser,
Dr. McMillan pulses 200 quadrillion photons into the night sky.
So we're shining the laser on the lunar highlands now, and we're getting nothing back except background light.
As expected, the lunar regolith, with its reflectivity index or albedo of approximately 8%, simply scatters the beam, and the sensors back here at the observatory detect no reflected light.
Now I'm going to move to Apollo 15. Initiating laser on retro-reflector from Apollo 15. And there's a spike beginning to stand out.
Is that it?
That's the return from Apollo 15. Light returning from the laser retro-reflector at exactly the wavelength and distance that we were expecting.
We shined that laser at the moon on the second test, and we got a clear spike back. Photons came back to our receptor. Now, the only way that that could happen is if there was a piece of man-made equipment up on the moon to reflect them back.
Jarrah, one has to wonder what this has to do with LRO oddities.
If it is impossible to mount lasers off the moon's bare surface, as the Mythbusters and other propagandists have alleged...
Sorry to interrupt in the middle of a sentence, but no one in Mythbusters, or anywhere else for that matter, has ever claimed that it's impossible to bounce a laser off the surface of the moon and see its reflection.
If it is impossible to mount lasers off the moon's bare surface, as the Mythbusters and other propagandists have alleged, how could LRO's laser altimeter possibly function?
Perhaps you're getting confused by, or trying to confuse others with, this guy's statement.
Now, the only way that that could happen is if there was a piece of man-made equipment up on the moon to reflect them back.
So, Jarrah, I hope that you're not claiming that this portion of Mythbusters is saying that it's impossible to pick up reflections off the surface of the moon. It is only saying that when we aim the laser toward some random section of the moon's surface, we get static. When we aim it toward the reflector, we get a signal back. And that's the only point that Mythbusters was trying to make, that there must be a device at that location designed to do that. Earth-based facilities use the reflectors to get accurate measurements to the moon. LRO can get accurate measurements by bouncing its laser directly off the surface of the moon because it's 8,000 times closer than this laser.
How could LRO's laser altimeter possibly function?
Again, because the Earth is 8,000 times farther away from the surface of the Moon than LRO is. This gives LRO a 64 million times light advantage using the inverse square law.
Why would NASA even install it if they knew the Moon's surface wouldn't reflect any lasers back?
Obviously, because they knew the Moon's surface would reflect the laser light back. This is the straw man you've created so that you can flex your pseudo-intellectual muscles and knock it down.
Of course, we already knew that you could bounce lasers off the Moon without any reflectors.
Yes, of course. And let's acknowledge this deliberate fallacy on your part. Texas sharpshooter fallacy. Information that has no relationship is interpreted or manipulated until it appears to have meaning. Earth-based lasers, which bounce their beams off of reflectors on the Moon, have absolutely nothing to do with LRO, which is 8,000 times closer and can bounce its laser directly off the surface. One begins to wonder just what point you think you're making here. You go on to quote from 2 articles, knocking down the straw man that you created, and proving something which no one has ever disputed. Yes, we know that with the right equipment, you can shine a laser on the Moon from Earth and detect its reflection off the surface. I remember when I first learned about this way back in the late 1960s when I was in high school. I'm afraid I won't be able to do justice to Moonfaker's LRO Retro-reflector oddities video in the allotted 10 minutes. If you're a bit confused at this point, I will briefly summarize what has happened so far at the beginning of the next part. Now, for fun, before concluding, try to predict which of the following claims will be made in the second half of this video. A. The use of the Lola laser to map the lunar surface from the LRO proves that the Apollo retroreflectors were not necessarily placed there by astronauts. B. Lola has forced Apollo advocates to switch horses from their previous position that lasers couldn't be reflected off the surface of the Moon. C. NASA shot itself in the foot by developing LRO and Lola. D. Most marsupials are indigenous to Australia. And E. All of the above. Don't miss the second half of this video, White Noise, Moon Hoax Nonsense Part 5B. It's sure to be a thriller. More spine-tingling disinformation, more gut-wrenching conceit, more heart-stopping slashing of other people's great achievements, more blood-curdling logical fallacies. Coming soon, only to this channel, 24/7.